Alrighty, everybody, it is currently Thursday, July 31st, 2025, and I'm coming at you live from a watermelon stand on the side of the road in Macon, Georgia. Nice little one for you today. I was thinking about going with some sort of fish-themed one because I caught my first fish, or second fish of the summer, despite fishing for at least 50 hours. I was thinking about going with a fish one, but I was just too excited. I couldn't come up with one, so I had to go with a watermelon stand on the side of the road in Macon, Georgia. I think Macon's in Georgia. Maybe it's Alabama. It's all the same once you get down there, dude. It's all the weirdest barbecue you've ever heard of. Like Alabama puts like mayonnaise on their barbecue or some shit like that. I don't even know what the fuck is going on in Georgia. I mean, outside of Atlanta, it doesn't exist, quite frankly. It's like Illinois, right? Illinois, it's Chicago, and then it's just whatever else is out there. Same with a lot of states. Same with most of the states in this country. I live in a state that I feel like is kind of an exception to that just because we have no major cities in the first place, right? Like I don't know, like I'm from Kansas, right? Maybe Oklahoma applies to that list. They have like Tulsa and Oklahoma City, but anyone that's ever been there knows it's just sort of a mud pile that rises out of the ground, around all the dead grass and other piles of mud there. So I would say Oklahoma's included in that list. The Dakotas, I feel like obviously are in there, but those aren't even really states in my opinion. If Puerto Rico isn't a state, then neither are the Dakotas. Sorry, I hate to break it to the boys in the Dakotas. You guys aren't really a state. If fucking Puerto Rico, Puerto Rico has like 10 times the population of both of the Dakotas combined. So I don't even count those guys as states in my personal opinion. But yeah, I don't even know what I was talking about, but I know what I'm talking about now. All right. I don't remember what the original subject is, but the new subject is the same as last week's first subject. And that was calling into Danny Polishuk's show, Low Value Mail. If you've never heard it before, he's a really funny fucking guy. I mean, obviously, he's like a famous comedian, but last week I called in this show and I was hitting the classic stupid, stupid, you're so dumb, hitting myself in the head, you know what I mean? Because I felt like it didn't go well. And, you know, that that was ignorance. That was being ignorant to how poorly it can go. That's what that was. That wasn't, being overly critical of myself. It was just plain ignorance altogether. Because if you really want to know how poorly it can go, then listen to this week's episode of Low Value Mail and listen to the second call-in, because Jesus Christ was that awful. How badly did I fuck that shit up, dude? I don't think I fucked anything up that badly in, I mean, it has to be years, dude. And I've had some really major fuck ups. You know what I mean? I've dropped a few things. I've dropped a few things that are very shatterable. I've just, I've had some big fuck ups. That's got to be one of the worst, though, dude. It was it was awful, but from that experience, you know what I mean? It's like war. I was basically in a war zone when I when I had a shitty call in to a podcast show that like 2,000 people were watching, but it is like war, all right? And I'll tell you why. Because in war, you can learn something. And I learned something from the war that I was in, the emotional war. And to be honest with you guys, an emotional war is more scary than an actual war, because in an actual war, all you're really in is physical danger. And when you're in physical danger, you just die and that's it, right? That's like the worst case scenario. That's the worst thing that can happen to you. You just die, boom, whatever. Whatever happens after you die, you're gone. But emotional, that type of emotional danger, you still have like that heightened sense of fear, right? That deep like animal primal fear of like, what the fuck is going on? But there is no death, there is no sweet release at the end of it. It's just you alone in your room with your fucking phone open, just being like, why the fuck did I say what I said? And if you don't know, or if you don't want to listen to it, I he was talking about the T app, right? Like the leak on the T app, and I don't know, just chicks in general or whatever, right? How dumb chicks are. Hey guys, we all know how dumb chicks are, right? They don't even like beer or football or dinosaurs, dude. They're so lame. But he wasn't doing that. He was actually being funny. Right? But he was talking about that. And last week he talked about the WNBA. And so I was like, I'm gonna put these two together when I make my call in. And he's also from Canada, so I decided to tie in a little bit of like the Indian mass migration to other countries. And I was like, hey, do you think that women are currently in a PR crisis that's kind of like what the Indians are in? And he goes, what are you talking about? In that moment, my soul left my body, and not in a good way, not in the way when you have like one of those like 30-second nuts where you're just a fire hose draining. Not in that way, not in a good way, in the worst way possible. I felt like I didn't exist at that point, and then I just was like, Indians, like they do poop and food together, and it was just it was awful. But from that experience, I extrapolated. Sometimes you just got to be fine with being embarrassed. It just is what it is. You got to be embarrassed sometimes. I don't know if you go your whole life and you're never embarrassed about anything, or you're never embarrassed in the moment, then I don't know. You didn't really do anything, or you were perfect. In which case, I don't know. Good for you, I guess. But you weren't. That's the thing. You weren't perfect. In your mind, you were perfect. And to be fair, that really is all that matters. So I mean, I guess then maybe you were perfect. Who knows, dude? We're not getting into philosophy this episode, but most people will feel embarrassment at one point or another, and you just got to be okay with it. I thought I was okay with embarrassment. I really did. And then that happened, and I was just like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to anyone ever. No, no human. I formed my own like world ideology and like worldview after that happened. Like that's how embarrassing it was. It was so fucking embarrassing. And just the fact that that hundreds or thousands of people are listening, it's awful. It's all, and then at the end of it, I have not even the courage. This is just pure stupidity. I was like, shout out independent learning on Spotify. You know, this is something we don't talk about enough in our society, but suicide is always an option. It surely, people will be like, it's never an op. Don't even think about it. It's never. Don't even consider it. Sometimes though, you know what I mean. Sometimes you call into a fucking a radio show basically, and you stumble over your words for 5 minutes, and you go, I've never done OxyContin before, but why don't I take 30 OxyContin pills at the same time? I mean, that doesn't sound like the worst thing that a person can do. That's the mentality you gain after an incident like that. And then you go through that fire of being like, yeah, I probably should kill myself because I embarrassed myself in front of a bunch of people who don't even know who I am, right? And who never will know who I am. Right? And then you come out of that fire a new man that does not fear embarrassment. Actually, no, you fear it just the same, but you're just like, I don't know, it's just gonna happen. Nothing I can do about it. It's all gonna happen to us sooner or later. All right, and you just got to accept that, or don't, or don't accept it and do whatever you want. In which case, that's probably the better option. Once again, just kind of doing whatever you want and just thinking that you're perfect all the time. I don't know. Maybe there's a God out there, and so maybe that wouldn't be the best option. But I don't know. If you don't think there's a God, then yeah, you can just kind of do whatever you want whenever you want. That is always a funny thing whenever you hear people like complete atheists who don't believe in anything try to explain morality, and it's just like no, no, morality doesn't exist there, right? They'll try to explain it like philosophically or whatever, and it's like, but all of the kind of philosophy leads back to human beings being like a separate, not superior, but almost like mystical entity, right? Like that's what all philosophy and morality kind of leads back to inevitably, and that's just kind of what religion is. But it's just they just believe that something made us this way instead of nature making us this way. In which case, have nature be your god, then, dude. I can't stand these people that just don't have anything like that. They don't believe in like a greater force or anything like that. Like those people really do piss me off. That's another one of my least favorite type of people. So you believe in nothing? Okay, then why do you do anything? It's like, well, because I want to. It's like, well, why do you want to? It's just chemicals in your brain at that point, right? Like when people are like, love is just chemicals in your brain. It's like, okay, dude, then don't love anything. I don't know what you want. It just being chemicals in your brain, then don't do anything ever. It's just I don't understand those people either, and I don't understand myself either. I don't understand why I do the things I do, but I'm I'm dumb enough to the point where I can just be like, I don't know, man, it's a god or maybe reincarnation, something like that. Like that's my worldview. My worldview is just generally blaming every poor decision I make on some sort of unseen entity. That's that's what my decision making is. I just blame it all on the devil, even though I don't really believe in the devil. It was Satan's fault, all right? It was Satan's fault that I called into that podcast and I stumbled over my words for 5 minutes. That's that's what I personally believe. That's how I act. You know what I mean? And beliefs don't really matter. It matters what you do. And what I do is blame everything on Satan, even though I don't believe in Satan. Okay? Actions speak louder than words. And I would say, in terms of my actions, I am a bit of a Christian. I kind of have this. I'm a modern Christian. I'm not like one of these theological Christians that's like poring over the Bible or whatever. I'm just like, yeah, the Bible, the priest will tell me what the fucking Bible says, all right? Like that's that's the worldview I have. You know, I just depend on everyone else to find the answers for me. And I think, that's better than trying to figure it all out yourself, dude, because that's how you go insane. That's how you become schizophrenic, right? Some people think you're born with mental diseases. Some people think you develop them. I don't really know, but I know one surefire way to develop some sort of mental disorder like that is to try to figure out everything on your own. All right? Just let other people do it for you. And if they're wrong, then, you have the ultimate solution, which is just blaming them. Right? You just be like, no, that guy lied to me. All right. I just believed what he said. And that anyone that's ever watched a cult documentary, you know how like far that can go. You know how far blaming someone else for like your actions can go. That's all they do. They're like, he tricked me. He tricked me into believing it. And it's like, well, you also did believe it. That's the other thing. You chose to believe what he was saying. I don't know. But once again, that's a pretty good option in life. Instead of blaming yourself for everything, just blame it on someone else, right? Some people choose like a group to do it to. Some people choose the Jews or the blacks or the illegal immigrants or whoever the fuck. I just blame it on other people generally, right? That's because when you start targeting a specific group, then you get too deeply into it. You know what I mean? Like if you blame the Jews for all your problems, you just get into that weird world. You know what I mean? That weird Nazi world of like, I don't know, Jews and fucking flying saucers or whatever. And it's like that's just a waste of time, dude. Just get back to Goon and hit Reddit, hit up the Goon subreddit on Reddit and just get to work, son. You know what I mean? So, important life lessons that I learned this week. Be okay with being embarrassed and then just generally blame everyone else for your problems, or your poor decisions, right? Not just like problems that are done unto you, just for like your poor decisions in general. Just be like, yeah, that wasn't my fault. It's society's fault. And that's the good thing about blaming society is it's just such a nebulous concept and you can't really pin it down on one specific group of people or people. Some people will try to do it, right? Like with what's that called? Critical race theory. They blame it all on Whitey. But it's like but then you really break it down and it's like, is it all Whitey's fault or is it this group's fault? That's why I just go with society as a whole. Because it's like I blame it on Whitey and then someone goes, well, white people are that way because of this, this, and that. And then it's like, well, that group that did that to white people is be like this because of this, this, and that. I don't care about all that, dude. That's why I just blame it on society as a whole. People try to break it down. People will be like, well, whose fault is it that it's that way? I don't know, dude. Society's, just blame it on them and move on with your life. That's the important takeaway that I learned this week. Be okay with being embarrassed, but then just kind of blame your embarrassment on everyone else. Just point the finger, not at anyone in particular. Just literally, when I say everyone else, I mean literally at just point, however many fingers you have, point them at that many people. All right, and blame them, blame them for the poor decisions that you make. It's what you got to do, dude. Look at Donald Trump. That's what Donald Trump does. He's constantly passing the buck to someone else, and it's just he became the president twice, dude. That's a pretty big accomplishment. Even if you do think the elections are rigged and that the CIA or Israel or whoever picks out the next president for us, he did become president twice by just constantly blaming everyone else. So you could disagree with a lot of what Trump does, and I do, right? Because I don't think he realizes what he's doing. I don't think he realizes the fact that he's just blaming everyone else for his problems. And then the stupid people that are like really dedicated to him believe what he's saying when he blames everyone else for his problems. I don't know if he's like aware of that fact. And so therefore he kind of like thinks he's smart and thinks he makes the right decisions instead of just acknowledging the fact that he blames everyone else for his poor decisions. But I mean, there's a lesson in there, dude. If you just blame everyone else for your problems, you can become the president of the United States of America. And honestly, it's not even Donald Trump. It's literally every politician. I've never heard a politician like take accountability for a poor decision that they made. And in fairness, that's because if they take accountability for something that they did, they're not going to get reelected, and therefore they're not able to, go back to Epstein's Island and have fun with some kids. They're not allowed to do that. They can't do insider trading anymore. And they can't just be like general, megalomaniac sociopaths anymore, right? That's why they don't blame, or that's why they don't take accountability for what they did. That's why they blame everyone else. So be a politician, just blame everyone else for your poor decisions. Every time a bill goes wrong or whatever, a politician's going to be like, well, it's because they lied to me. The other people in Congress just lied to me. They're not going to be like, no, I didn't read the bill. I had one of my interns read the 1,000-page bill, and then I did what he told me to do, right? They're never going to do that. They're just going to be like, it's everyone else's fault. And that's how you stay in Congress for 40 years or however long Pelosi and what's that other chick's, Dianne Feinstein. Like, that's how they got to be in Congress for 40 years. They didn't do it by taking personal accountability. People will try to feed you that line of bullshit, you know what I mean? These motivational speakers like Jocko Willink or whatever will be like, you need to take absolute responsibility for every action that you do. And it's like, yeah, Jocko, that's why you host a podcast, dude. That's why you're not a high-ranking politician who makes millions of dollars a year off donations, quote unquote, and insider trading, right? That's why you're hosting a podcast instead of doing that. That's what these inspirational speakers miss. And a lot of them don't even really believe in the things they say. And that's the thing. If you're not going to believe in what you're saying, you might as well say a thing that's actually going to help people. And that thing is just blame everyone else. Just once again, no one in particular, because when you start blaming groups in particular, then you kind of create this greater ideology. And you don't want to do that, dude. That's just too much goddamn work. All right, so just blame everyone else in general. Once again, not a specific group, just everyone. It's all their fault. It's their fault that I did what I did. And then you'll become a senator from, I don't know, Nebraska or whatever, and you'll make millions of dollars a year. So that would be my piece of advice for you guys. Just blame everyone else. Just don't. And even if you do take personal accountability, it's like, what's that gonna do? Oh, you're gonna sleep better at night. Boring. Boring. Just blame it all on everyone else. Just be like, no, you tricked me into doing that, dude. That's what I did. When I called him that podcast and I stumbled over my words for God knows how long it was. It might have been an hour. It seriously might have been an hour. When that happened, I hung up and I said, society, this is your fault. Society, you made me do this. Society, you tricked me into being an idiot. Society tricked me into being an unfunny moron. That's what I did. That's the lesson I took away from it. And that's, if you haven't learned that lesson yet, then I'm giving it to you. Giving it to you for absolutely free, dude. Literally, the only payment is just listening to me rant about nothing. That's the payment. The payment is that I completely waste all of your time. But what else are you gonna do with your time, dude? I don't know. You're gonna vape on your fucking bubblegum geek bar and play, I don't know, Labubu match or whatever on your phone for 8 hours, and that does seem like it's kind of anti-woman or anti-white woman like racism, and it kind of is, but it's true, okay? But it's true. It's true for everyone in society, People try to pretend that it's like one specific group that spends too much time on their phone, right? Like boomers will be like, these young kids, they can't get off their damn phones, and then younger kids will be like, no, it's just weird, fucking Tumblr internet goblins. No, everyone spends too much time on there. Really spending any time on your phone when you don't need to be on it, you're spending too much time on it, all right? That's the thing. It's not something that you're meant to do, right? Scrolling through TikTok or Instagram or Twitter or whatever, that's not something that you're meant to be doing. It's not something that you're meant to be doing biologically. It's not something that you're meant to be doing like culturally or societally. It's just you're not supposed to be doing it in general. It's always a waste of time. No matter. So people will try to convince themselves that it's not a waste of time, but it is. And that's And that's fine because most things are a waste of time. Your job probably is a waste of time. If you work in an office, then your job's definitely a waste of time. Some people try to be like, "No, me being the senior VP of project leading isn't a waste of time." Yes, it is, dude. It's it just is a waste of time, and that's fine. You're going to spend most of your life wasting time. And that's just something that you have to accept, because if you spend most of your life trying to answer the great philosophical questions, once again, you'll become schizophrenic. And to be fair, being schizophrenic does seem like a pretty fun time. I don't know if you guys have ever been to any major city ever, but those guys seem to be rocking, dude. Those guys those guys seem to be having a blast. Just walking down the streets, having arguments with no one, occasionally stealing like some tools or copper construction equipment, you know. It seems like a fun life. It's a nice hunter gatherer lifestyle. And honestly, those people are like the closest. They live the ancestral lifestyle. Crackheads, schizophrenics, people who live on the street, dude. They're basically like the Mongolians. They're like the Mongol Empire. All right, they ride around on lime scooters, which is their equivalent of horses. They sleep in tents all day and they like do raids. And most of their raids are jumping over a fence and stealing a bunch of Milwaukee tools from a job site. But that is a raid, dude. That's like a Comanche style raid. Just riding in on your lime scooter that you stole, just whipping that thing, letting out a real quick war cry, jumping over that fence, stealing that Milwaukee angle grinder, and, and making a quick buck so that you could buy whatever homeless people buy, dude. Usually fentanyl, but they buy other things too sometimes. They I don't think they do. I think they really only buy fentanyl. I think I think homeless people only buy fentanyl because they get all their food from soup kitchens and like nonprofits and shit like that. They're not going to Mickey D's, unless you take them in there. Some people would do that. Some people will see like a homeless person begging on the street and they'll be like, "Do you want a Big Mac?" And the homeless person has to like pretend they want a Big Mac. No, they don't want a Big Mac. They want $5 so they can go and buy fentanyl. And then they'll go in and they'll get the Big Mac, and then they probably won't even eat it because they're just too busy thinking about fentanyl, dude. Like their brain, it can't even like process the physical feeling of hunger anymore just because they want fentanyl so badly. So yeah, homeless people, they just live that ancestral lifestyle. They don't pay for like housing and stuff, right? They don't they don't got to fucking worry about property taxes or whatever. They're not paying the water bill. They're not paying the electric bill. They're not paying for fucking internet, dude, which is surprising because you scroll through like TikTok or Instagram or anything like that, you're bound to come across like some homeless dude just being just a schizophrenic homeless dude that's been completely abandoned by society ranting about nothing. Or maybe that's just me. Once again, maybe it is just me experiencing that. But they don't pay for clothes. They'll just hit up like one of like those donation sites, like one of those no contact donation sites where they just like throw it in the bin or whatever. They'll dive in there real quick, pick out a Hello Kitty t-shirt and just rock that thing for the next 8 years. So they don't pay for clothes, they don't pay for housing, they don't pay for food. Once again, I don't think they care. I don't think they care about what type of food they eat. I think they're fine with, baked beans from a can or whatever. The only thing they really pay for is fentanyl. And in some cities they don't even pay for that, cuz like in Portland and I think Vancouver, like the Northwest, and probably in Los Angeles and really any city, there's going to be like some weird nonprofit that's just giving out fentanyl or like drugs for free. So they don't even really pay for that, dude. They're living the ultimate life, just absolute freeloading, dude. Just everyone, when you think of freeloaders, you think of people who are like taking advantage of the welfare system or people who like live in their parents' basements and just play video games all day. The real freeloaders are the homeless. It doesn't seem like they're freeloaders because they really have nothing, but everything they do have, they get for free. And you got to respect that a little bit, dude. You have to respect that. Like everyone else out here is paying taxes and fucking going to work for 60 hours a week and not getting paid shit, and then they go home and they eat shit in their shit fucking apartment. And meanwhile, homeless people, their lives are shit too, but they don't pay for any of that shit. You know what I mean? They're just getting it for free. So you got to respect the grind a little bit. You got to look at them and be like, you fucking figured out how to game the system. I don't want to game the system in the same way you're doing it, but there are important lessons to learn from you guys. I talked about this in a recent episode, dude. There are important lessons to learn from homeless people, specifically meth addicts. There's some important lessons to learn there. And the ones I talked about in that episode weren't really the same as this one. So once again, we uncovered a lesson from the homeless, from the schizophrenics, from the abandoned dregs of society. We learned a lesson from them, and that's you got to figure out how to freeload a little bit, or just like take advantage of the system. Not enough people do that. Everyone thinks that like millions of Americans are taking complete advantage of the welfare system or like the food stamp system, the EBT shit like that. There is probably a decent amount of people doing that, but there's not enough, dude. Because if it's going to exist and I'm going to have to pay 50% in taxes every year or whatever, I, I'm going to be getting my food for free. I'm going to figure out how to steal money from the government, which the government gets their money by stealing it from people. So you're basically stealing it from people, but the people were going to have that money stolen anyway. So I might as well find a way to take advantage of that. That's an important lesson we can learn from the homeless, dude. They understand. They understand the freeloading system, dude. They're the philosophers of our times. All right, they truly understand the system and the way it works. They know more about the economy than anyone else, dude. Homeless people, they understand how that shit works. And also they're recession proof. Most homeless people are pretty fucking recession proof. When all you eat, when you basically live like you're living in a recession anyway, that kind of makes you recession proof. So a couple lessons to learn from them. Once again, they've got some valuable insight into the world. I don't know if they know they have that insight. I think they're just kind of like cockroaches just crawling around doing whatever they can to survive. But they do have good insights that we can learn from them. Live like you're already in a recession and figure out how to steal as much money from the government as possible or steal it from private corporations. Even better, dude, right? Because like I said, when you're stealing from the government, you're kind of in a way stealing from like the people. But if you're stealing from like a private company, you're just stealing from like billionaires and stuff like that. So that's honestly another good game plan. I don't know how to do it. It's pretty complicated to like embezzle funds from the company you work for. I don't think that's like an easy task that anyone can do. But I would say figure it out, you know? Take a lesson from the homeless people. Live like you're in a recession and figure out how to embezzle money from the company that you work for. It doesn't have to be. Sorry, I had to take a sip of water there real quick. It doesn't have to be, millions and millions of dollars. If you can figure out how to just siphon off like an extra 2 grand a month, dude, and then you're already living like you're living in a recession or a depression, take it a step further maybe and just live like you're living in a depression. Only eat, only eat beans from cans and whatever else they ate in the depression. Only eat like hardtack and beans from cans. And then and then you'll become a millionaire. All right, you'll become a millionaire when you're 75 years old. If all you do is eat hardtack and Bush's baked beans. So, but just an extra 2 grand a month. Figure out how to siphon that away from your company, dude. And most importantly, figure out a way how to not pay taxes on it. And you're gonna be rolling in it, dude. Just an extra 2 grand a month in cash. Living the good life, man. Just chilling all day, chilling in your shitty fucking apartment, just hearing the screams of women being hit by their husbands. Shit like that, dude. It's what you got to do to survive, all right? Listen to me. It's what you got to do to survive. I'm a tough man. I'm a tough army man. This episode is dog shit, dude. It's still, all the energy was sapped from my body when I caught that fish. And it wasn't the most satisfying catch I've ever had in my life, dude. It was about a 30, not even 30, 10-second fight, and even 10 seconds is being incredibly generous because I was using a rooster tail. And if you don't know what a rooster tail is, you don't really need to know, but at the end of it, it's a treble hook, which is those 3 hooks that are all together. And so it like swallowed the whole lure. Usually you just get it on like kind of the inside of its mouth, but it swallowed that thing, dude. This crappie was hungry because it just devoured that thing. No second thoughts. That's an American fish right there. It didn't know what it was putting in its mouth. It just shoved it down there and swallowed it. And so I didn't even set the hook, by the way. Usually when you're fishing, you're supposed to set the hook. And what that means is you pull the rod as hard as you physically can, or not as hard as you can, but like pretty hard in order to get the hook into the fish's mouth. Because usually they don't swallow the whole lure like this fish did, dude. And so it swallowed the whole lure. And so I reeled it in super easily. And I was like, even when they swallow the whole lure, there's usually a bit of fight there. I haven't caught a ton of fish, but I know that fact. Get it up on the dock, dude. In this thing. It was just bleeding. It, like, swallowed it so much that it cut its gills, like, there was blood coming out of its gills and stuff like that. So, wasn't the greatest fight, wasn't the most satisfying fight, but when that's your second fish of the entire summer, dude, it takes the energy out of you. You're like, "Let's fucking go." And that was something that I did. I did scream, "Let's fucking go." There was no one else there. There was someone else there. When I got there, there was like a I don't even know what type of car this was. It looked like a Tokyo Drift type of car, and it was like a shitty fucking gray. And when I got there, it was like parked kind of in the tree area. And so I was like, oh, they must have like parked there and then walked somewhere else. And so I kind of went to the coastline of the lake. I didn't see fucking anyone else. There was not another human being in sight. And this was pretty early this was like 7:30 in the morning when I got there, dude. So and I didn't see anyone else the entire time. So I kind of have to assume that this was a homeless person or a junkie, or maybe there was a party there last night and these people were just sleeping in their car. I don't fucking know, dude, but I got fish to catch, all right? I don't have time to worry about someone overdosing in a fucking 2004 Scion, all right? I, I got crappie to catch. And this is the most frustrating thing about fishing is that you'll hear fish like attack the top of the water, right? Because the smaller fish swim at the top of the water, and then the bigger fish, they kind of come up like a great white shark or whatever, and they attack the little fish that are swimming at the top of the water. And usually when you go fishing, you'll see it like occasionally. Like it'll just be like a psh here and a psh here. But when I was there, dude, there was like this entire school of I don't even know what it was. It was like crappie. I don't know if smallmouth bass swim in schools, but if they do, these were maybe smallmouth bass. I really couldn't tell. And it had to be like 30 of them just hitting the top of the water. And I was like, it's like trying to chuck lures out there to even just snag one of them. I don't even need them to swallow the lure. If I could just snag one of them, and I didn't. And that's the most frustrating thing about fishing is you see them. You see those things going for the other fish and stuff. And you're like, why? You're a stupid fish, dude. You're the dumbest thing on earth. There's nothing dumber than a fish, dude. Even an ant. An ant can live in like a complex society and it knows how to like go out and hunt and gather for food. All fish do is just swim around all day and they see like a shiny thing and then they bite it. But not my shiny thing, dude. Not my shiny, precious, delicious lure, of which I lost three. I lost like three lures when I was out there, and I only got one fish. But I know the strat now. All right, I know you got to go out on the dock and cast out into the middle of the water because for some reason the fish near the rocks just aren't going to bite your goddamn lure. And to even get to the dock in the first place, this was like a floating dock, and like the walkway out to the dock was it was like in the water. It like fell down from like where it connected to the land into the water, and so I had to get like soaking wet to catch like one fish that is probably dead by now. But hey, man, it's satisfying. It's I don't know. It's just something about it, and it's not. It's I don't like eat the fish I catch. I probably could. You know what I mean? I'm a master angler and a master knifesman and a master butcher. So I could have eaten it, but I didn't. Just something about it, getting that fish on there. And I think it's just like the rarity of it, you know? It's like with NFTs or art or whatever. It's just like the rarity of it that makes you like really makes you really intense about it. I don't know. But today is about current events. This episode's probably only going to be like an hour long, and no one's going to listen to it anyway, so I might as well get into the news, dude. And unfortunately, Donald Trump is still the president. So we're going to have to be talking about him. All right. It just is what it is, dude. If Donald Trump's the president, we're going to have to talk about him. But I decided to only go with one article for him today, and we're not talking about Israel at all. I'm sure I'll somehow relate one of these articles to Israel, but it's not going to be the main topic of this. But this article is from the Libs. This is CNN. Trump's trade deadline ticks down to zero. Tariffs are about to soar. So I don't really know how CNN works, but I guess this is like a live update of all the stuff that's going on here. So there's like multiple articles in here that we can read. So what exactly will happen with tariffs at midnight? When is a tariff? I don't think most people understand that even now. Most people are just like, tariffs are the thing that makes eggs more expensive. That's how most people nowadays understand tariffs, and that, quite frankly, is how I understand them as well. Because I understand like what a tariff is, right? It's a tax that you place on a country that affects all their imported goods. I know that. I know that fact about tariffs, but I don't understand everything about them. But what will happen? What exactly will happen? So President Donald Trump has made clear there will be no delay on the sweeping tariffs set to snap into place just after midnight. And so I didn't know that this was like a universal thing. I knew that they were applying a 50% tariff to imported copper. And I heard that and I was like, let's fucking go. Prices are going to soar, dude. The scrapyard's going to be popping. But I didn't know that it was like applying to like every country. So the mechanics of how exactly that's going to work aren't exactly clear. God damn, whoever wrote this, Phil Mattingly loves the fucking word exactly. Just hours before the deadline. That's a bit of a headache for the whole host of countries, importers, and custom agents. White House press security Caroline Levitt, I don't know, said at a briefing Thursday that Trump will sign an executive order imposing the new rates at some point today, but that process has been complicated by a last-minute rush from trading partners to secure deals to lower their tariffs. They didn't think he would do it. You know, a lot of people shit on Donnie T, including me. They didn't think he would do it. These people, you know, whatever country it is, China, India, I don't know, whoever else imports stuff to the United States, they didn't think he would do it. And they didn't think he would do it because they knew it would cause some sort of crash in this country. But the thing about economic issues in the United States of America is that they affect the entire world. People try to pretend like the entire world doesn't depend on the United States of America for almost everything. People like to pretend that that's not a fact, but they do. Like, just look at it, dude. 2008 financial crisis. Every other country on earth suffered severely during that as well. Even the Great Depression, even when America really wasn't that powerful and we weren't, at our peak during the Great Depression caused like a depression in Europe, dude. So people will try to act, people like to hate on America. I understand it, dude. It's the same reason people hate on LeBron and Michael Jordan and shit like that. I understand why people hate on America. But just like actually pretending, like actually believing that issues in America won't affect you is insane. They obviously will. You guys depend on us, especially Europe. I hate the Europeans so much. I despise them with every fiber of my being, dude. Every European is like, "Oh, well, we have free healthcare." And it's like, "Yeah, dude, that's because we pay for everything else in your country." Right? They'll be like, "Oh, we have trains and you can go to the doctor for free and we don't use red 40 dye," whatever dumb flexes they have, whatever pointless flexes they have in Europe only exist because America pays for their military, dude. Like our $1 trillion military budget, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars of that go to Europe and NATO. And it's like, yeah, we would have free healthcare too if we didn't have to pay for our fucking military. Right? It's such like a ridiculous flex. It's like someone who lives with their parents being like, I got a gold watch. It's like, yeah, dude, because your parents pay for everything else that you have in your life. Right? Like you'll never hear me flexing about how much money I have saved up. It's like, yeah, I live with my parents. I don't really have that many fucking expenses, dude. I don't really have to pay for that much. I don't have to pay for rent or food and stuff like that. No wonder I have as much money saved up as I do. It's just very funny. And it's literally equivalent. They'll try to be like, no, that's a false equivalent. It's the exact same thing. We pay for what should be your biggest expense, and so therefore you're allowed to have all these nice things. And even the nice things that you do have really aren't that nice. Like the free health care in Canada and Europe and especially like the UK, it's dog shit. It's horrible. Like, people will like criticize America by being like it costs like $10,000 to go to the doctor, and it's like, yeah, but we can actually go to the doctor. Right? They'll be like the healthcare. Cuba has way more doctors than America. Cuba has so many more doctors, and it's like, yeah, but they don't have electricity. So I don't really give a shit how many fucking doctors Cuba has because they don't have electricity or food or roads. And it's the same in Europe. They're like, oh, well, we have free healthcare. And it's like, yeah, but no one gets it. It's like, yeah, sure, the government says that you guys have free healthcare, but no one actually gets the fucking healthcare. It takes like 8 months to see a doctor. It's and even when you get there, you don't get proper medical care. Like you can say that a hospital visit in the United States of America costs like $30,000, and you would be right to criticize that. the American healthcare system is definitely fucked up, but at least it at least it, like, kind of does what it says it does. God damn, I hate Europeans. And really the rest of the world. I'm what's that, xenophobic? And it's not even, I don't even know if it's xenophobia. It's just like a deep found hate for the rest of the world because it's like, you don't know how fucked up things would be if we didn't take care of it all. And we're not always right. You know, sometimes we will bomb a Middle Eastern country back to the Stone Age. You know, we've done that on more than one occasion, but it's still very annoying to hear these people. Like, you think China wouldn't try to invade every other country around them if America wasn't there? You really think they wouldn't be trying to do that, dude? They're already trying. They're not trying as hard as they could try because they know if they do, America's going to get involved, but they would be trying to do that, you know? It's just very, very annoying to hear that from these people. But let's go on. So that has added a level of difficulty to a process that requires a presidential directive for the federal government to actually collect revenues from the new rates. The uncertainty and extremely compressed timetable for the implementation is hardly a new development for federal officials involved in this process. It has been more of a feature than a bug given Trump's evolving and often I don't know, HOC. Anyone know what that word? Ad hoc. Oh, that must be Latin or some shit. Dude, I'm kind of getting sick and tired of Phil Mattingly. All right, you use the word extremely 8 times and then you throw in like some Latin phrase. It's like, dude, don't pretend like you know what an ad hoc is, dude. You can't think of another synonym for extremely and then you're throwing in some Latin. Shut up. I looked up what it meant, but I didn't really read it. Let's see what ad hoc means. So, oh, AI is going to tell me. Great. That's exactly what I wanted. It's not like Wikipedia. So for this, Jesus goddamn Christ. Oh my God, Phil Mattingly, I will, I will fuck your wife. All right. So, an often ad hoc approach to this whole suite of new tariffs and rates. For imposters staring down, for importers, I was like, imposters? Phil, this isn't a game of Among Us, dude. This is tariff. So, for importers staring down new levies in a matter of hours and customs officials tasked with implementing those rates, the countdown to the deadline has been pretty messy, one corporate executive told CNN. Trump has clinched a steady stream of agreements with major trading partners over the course of the last week and announced that India would be hit with a 25% rate and an additional penalty for energy purchases from Russia after negotiations with New Delhi broke down. Another 17 nations were sent letters last month setting their new rate if no deal is reached before the deadline. Trump set a 10% universal tariffs on all countries on April 2nd that has remained in place throughout the delay in his reciprocal rates. Okay, so his reciprocal rates, if you don't know, is like, so Trump set the tariffs on all the countries, and then all the countries were like, well, we're going to set even bigger tariffs on the United States. And I don't think people understand that, like, before Trump was doing this whole thing with putting tariffs on every country had tariffs on us. Like, literally every single country had like a 50% tariff on the United, like something insane like that. And so it's like Trump is just the tariffs that Trump is put on these countries in the first place, the 10% universal tariff, that was reciprocal in the first place. I don't think these people fully understand that, but it is. It's But anyway, but he's also said he's considering a baseline tariff between 15 and 20% for roughly 150 countries. That's all the countries. There's like 150, there's like 5 countries that matter. So 150, that's basically all the countries, implying that the initial universal tariff may increase for some or all of those nations. The White House hasn't clarified what the final level will be up to this point. Leavitt says, Caroline Leavitt, or whatever that chick's name is, said countries that have not reached deals with the U.S. will hear the final verdict on their tariff rate from this administration by the midnight deadline tonight, dude. They've got a lot of calls to make, dude. Donnie T's phone bill is about to be real fucking high because he's got a lot of international calls to make. But we got our second article in here. So, Senate Democrats rail on Trump's patchwork of tariffs ahead of the trade deal deadline. And like I said, I don't want to talk about Israel too much, but I can almost guarantee Israel's going to be exempt. All right. So some Senate Democrats railed against the Trump administration's patchwork of tariffs ahead of Friday's trade deal deadline. Asked what they are hearing from foreign governments on the tariffs, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer argued that the tariffs are making first a fool of the United States in the eyes of the nations worldwide. And this is the thing that kind of pisses me off about Democrats, dude. Democrats try to pretend like they're the poor people's party, or they try to pretend like Republicans only care about rich, and then they turn around and they're like, tariffs are retarded. And it's just like, dude, what do you think? What jobs do you think poor people are going to have? Poor people can't afford to go to college anymore. Most of them can't. And even if they do, they're going to be in debt for their entire lives, and they're not going to be able to find a job in the first place because all the jobs have been shipped over to India and China and shit like that. So it's like, is what Trump is doing, is that going to work? No, probably not. He's probably not going to fucking cause a second industrial revolution in the United States of America by putting tariffs on every single country on earth. It's probably not going to happen. But just like, I don't know, just shitting on him, it's like, guys, you clearly aren't the you clearly aren't the party for workers. If you think you're clearly not the party for poor people, if you're just like, Trump's an idiot, why does he want to bring industry back to the United States of America? You're just not the party of poor people if you're like against bringing physical industry back to the United States of America. Here's what they are saying. Schumer said the tariffs are a trade war on the American people. The New York senator said that there has been chaos and uncertainty, and no one knows what's coming when Donald Trump has no plan, no strategy, and he's not honest about what he presents. None of you guys are. Right? None of you guys. Well, what's your guys' plan? That's the other thing that kind of annoys me about all this is it's like it's like when you're hanging out with your friends and you're like, "Yo, you want to go get something to eat?" And you're like, and they're like, "Yeah." And you're like, let's go to Wendy's or whatever." And they're like, "I don't like Wendy's." And then you're like, "Let's go to Taco Bell." And then they're like, "I don't like Taco Bell." And it's like, well, then you fucking come up with something. Like that's what I would do if I was Donald Trump. I would pull out like the fucking boyfriend argument of being like, "You want to eat Chick-fil-A? You don't want to eat fucking at the Mexican restaurant? You come up with it. You figure out what we're gonna eat tonight." Like that's what Trump needs to do. He just needs to have like a full on boyfriend spaz and just freak out and be like, "You figure it out, dude. What you you never know where you want to eat. You figure it out." That's what he needs to do. He needs to have like a full on boyfriend spaz on the Democratic Party. Be like, "You guys, I, I try to come up with the plan, and you guys just keep shitting on it, dude. You guys figure it out if you're so fucking smart then." That's what Donnie D needs to do to the Democrats. And now we have Senator Tim Kaine. So, Senator Tim Kaine pointed to his plan to file legislation challenging the announced tariff on Brazil. All right, Tim Kaine, dude. Tim Kaine's getting money from the Brazilian super PAC, dude. Very odd nation to choose to defend, but let's see what he has to say. He said that tariffs are being imposed on a nation where the US has a trade surplus, not a trade deficit, because his friend is being prosecuted. Oh, Bolsonaro. So that is not an emergency under IEEPA. That is an unprecedented use of that power. Okay, guys, I'm kind of getting sick and tired of this whole Trump is it's everything Trump does is unprecedented. No, it's not. Okay? No, it's not. Stop fucking pretending like everything that Trump does, like it just comes out of nowhere. Stop acting like he like this is the most insane thing that you've never thought about before. It's these people. They must be the biggest morons on earth, quite frankly. They must be some of the stupidest people to ever exist. To just be like, "What? What's he did? No president's tried to deport illegal immigrants. What is Donald Trump? No president has ever wrongfully imprisoned foreign people. That's what Trump is the first president to ever wrongfully imprison people from foreign countries. No one's ever done that before." Like they say this, and a significant amount of people fall for it. That's why they keep it, because they don't care. These people that are listening to this, they just want to hate Donald Trump. And to be fair, that is a pretty fun thing to do. It is pretty fun to just hate Donald Trump. So I understand why they want to do it, but they just eat it up. They're like, no president has ever built a prison camp before. And it's like, we did that. Not only did we do that, we did it in multiple countries. Obama did it, Biden did it, Bush definitely did it, right? Clinton, I'm sure all of them have done that, right? Since Vietnam, I'm sure we've been building illegal prison camps in other countries where we torture people all day. And it's so funny to me. It's like, no, no president's ever done this before. It's like they all talk about like alligator Alcatraz, dude, and it's like I have two words for you: Abu Ghraib. Abu Ghraib, if you don't know, was a black site prison. I think in Iraq. I think it was in Iraq. I'll Google it real quick, but it was part of the War on Terror, and it was this black site prison that didn't like officially exist or whatever, and we just tortured like 14-year-olds there all day, just like random 14-year-olds, and we just literally abused them ad nauseum. Not even abused, tortured them ad nauseum. It's like, yeah, I don't know where these people are getting this idea. It's like you've never heard of Abu Ghraib or Guantanamo Bay before. Like, there's literally a prison on U.S. soil that no one has any idea what's going on there. That's what Guantanamo Bay is. Guantanamo Bay is technically on U.S. soil, and it's just like we just torture people there. And they're like, no, this tent camp in Florida, that's the It's I don't understand these people. And that's maybe where the conspiracy theorists will come in and be like, it's all like a big plan for them to like seem like they're fighting each other when they're actually working in conjunction. And I'd be inclined to believe that, but I don't really want to get into it too much because I feel like that's too complicated for me, dude. Like I said, I'm retarded after I caught that one fish. So, but just like look up a picture of Abu Ghraib and be like, okay, maybe we should maybe we should chill on Donald Trump for making like one tent camp in Florida. Maybe we should just chill out a little bit. Like the famous picture, I'm looking at it right now. It's of this guy and he's wearing like this black rag basically over his body and he's wearing this black hood, this black like pointed KKK style hood, but there's no eye holes in it. And he has his hands hooked up to wires. In actuality, those wires weren't actually connected to anything. And he's also in a crucifix position. It's a very famous picture, but yeah, they just act like everything he does, no president's ever done it before. They're like, no president's ever made a major economic decision before. It's like, yes, they have. They've all done it. No country has ever used, or no president has ever used their political power to leverage another country into doing something. Yes, they have, dude, and they've done way worse than that. They've done, they've bombed countries into oblivion to get them to do what they want to do. It's not, this isn't unprecedented. It's not right. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying he's correct, but acting like it's the most insane thing you've ever heard and no president's ever done it before is retarded. So, and now we have Senator Ron Wyden. Ron was widening out children on Epstein's Island. There we go. Gotcha, Ron. So, the top Democrat on the Senate Finance Committee warned that the administration's handling of trade deal announcements is a recipe for corruption. Oh, God, what would we do if the fucking United States federal government was corrupt? What would ever happen to the people? Once again, acting like the government hasn't been insanely corrupt since they've been able to gain an iota of power is an insane thing. They've been insanely corrupt for years, dude. let's let's look up Ron Wyden's net worth. Let's see how much Ron Wyden is worth. If you don't know, these people get paid like $200,000 a year, and they're all millionaires. Yeah, like the second recommended Google search. Yeah, this guy's net worth is $6.8 million. Dude, wait, that was his net worth in 2018. His estimated net worth in 2024 is $20.43 million. Yeah, keep fighting. Keep fighting against that corruption, Ron. You're worth $20 million and you're a fucking senator, dude. You work for the government and you're worth more than fucking countries. I want you to. It's just so. It's hilarious, dude. It's because these people, they do this straight face. This guy, Ron Wyden, I'm sure he had like 100% straight face. He was probably like mimicking Obama, like doing that thing with his hand, being like, Donald Trump is the most corrupt president. This is a recipe for corruption. It's like, Ron, you're worth $20 million and you get paid $200,000 a year, man. You would have to do this job literally for 100 years to make that much money. So, Ron, how about you just pipe the fuck down? That's what I'd be doing if I was Donald Trump. I'd be like, "Oh, I'm corrupt, Ron. You're worth 20 million. How about we pipe the fuck down, Ron?" Literally, I looked it up. I with a quick Google search, Ron. Let's pipe down a little bit. So, Senator Maria Cantwell, the top Democrat on the Senate Commerce Committee said the United States Senate should not be hearing about trade tariff or tariff policies and developments by watching cable TV. The administration officials should be telling the Congress exactly what these proposals are, she said, emphasizing that this is a serious business with broad economic consequences affecting all our constituents. These people don't give a shit. Oh, and now we have like the actual proposed tariffs. So on the European Union, we have a 15% tariff. Donald Trump, dude, if if you want me to fucking, you know what I mean? If you want me to like you more, if you want me to really support you, let's go from 15 to 50. All right? I'm sick and tired of these fools. And then on Japan, we have a 15%. On Russia, 100% if no peace deal is reached in 50 days from July 14th. So that's a threat. Canada, 25% on non-energy and 10% on energy and potash. What the fuck is potash? I feel like that's a very complicated economic word that I'm not going to be able to understand. Okay, potassium-bearing minerals used as fertilizer. Okay. And then China, we got a 30% tariff. 30%. Okay, wait. So this is the tariff that's effective on China for 90 days from May 14th. So 30% 30%. Tariffs start at 54% or $100 flat fee on packages worth $800 or less. Okay, I understand that. So Donnie T is basically saying, hey, when you're bringing in a whole lot, we'll only put 30% on it. But if it's just some little shit, I'm going to have to charge you a higher rate. I understand what he's doing there. And then universal tariff. Yeah, the copper tariff. They're saying it's effective, but it doesn't go into effect until tomorrow, but it's 50%. Let's look at the rest of this, dude. Automobiles, 25%. Steel and aluminum, 50%, dude. Donnie T doesn't want anyone in here getting any metals, dude. Donnie T doesn't want any foil up in this country. All right. That's all I've got for Donnie T and the tariffs. But now we're on to our next article. And I think most people are like, why didn't you talk about this first? But we're talking about the Midtown shooting in the Blackstone office. So, slain Blackstone executive was a mentor to women and a leader at work. This is, and people don't understand that Blackstone and BlackRock are kind of the same thing. They were at one point they were the same company, and then Blackstone split off due to disagreements, but it was probably actually like them trying to prevent the government from stepping in because they were basically creating a monopoly. So Blackstone, it is BlackRock. People try to say that it's not. It's the same thing. It's BlackRock is its own thing, and Blackstone is basically a part of it. And then there's North Street, State Street, some fucking shit like that. I just know BlackRock. BlackRock's the big one. So this lady, Wesley LaPlanter, a senior executive at Blackstone, was among the 4 victims of a gunman who opened fire on Monday in a Park Avenue office tower. And this is just I can't remember if I talked about like a class war going on, but it's like this is the type of thing that will fuel a class war is people watching as this lady gets, I mean, a week worth of media attention for being killed. It's just like, dude, hundreds, like in Chicago, probably 10 people were killed over the course of, this over the course of them talking about this lady, Wesley LaPlanter, right? Probably 10 young men in Chicago were killed. And it's just these people, right? These people that lived in these impoverished, violently entrenched communities. Look at someone talking about some random lady getting killed for like a week straight. And it's like you don't expect them to get angry about that. You don't expect them to be like, you don't value our lives the same way, right? Like that's why a lot of people say that like the government prefers like rich people. I don't know. I was retarded. Obviously the government treats rich people better. But it's like and it's not just like an economic thing. It's not just the government treating rich people better economically. And it's not just, these media institutions treating rich people better economically or treating them favorably when they talk about them or whatever. They are literally giving more value to their lives. They are literally giving more attention to their deaths than they do the deaths of thousands and thousands and thousands of poor people every single day. And so it's like if a class war starts, it's kind of entirely their fault, right? It's not there's no like it was mutual. No, it was entirely the rich people's fault if, like, a class war does start, and it kind of this May, um you could look at this past year as, like, the semblance of a class war beginning because we had the whole Luigi Mangione thing, and now we have this guy killing, 4 people in a Blackstone office in New York. You could view it as that, and I don't think they're wrong. I don't think poor people would be wrong to um, enact a class war against rich people because it's like at this point rich people clearly have their lives valued more than poor people. They're getting more attention. They're getting more economic help, and it's just like, yeah, I don't know what people expect poor people to do at this point. Like really poor people. Like I'm middle class. I don't, and even I want to kill CEO of BlackRock, right? I'm comfortably middle class. I've never really had to struggle for that much in my life. I've never, had to worry where my next meal was coming from that much, right? So it's like even me, even a person who's been very privileged in their life is like, yeah, this guy shouldn't be allowed to be alive. Right? Even I'm thinking that. So it's like, what do you think the poorest people in our country think? Do you think they're just going to be like, oh, yeah, this poor No, they're going to be like, yeah, she should have been dead a long time ago. Right? It's, and also this goes back to the other thing that you hear. And I've heard like people like Tim Dillon. I love Tim Dillon. I think he's right about almost anything. I love listening to him. Sometimes I think he's wrong, but it's whatever. But when the whole Luigi Mangione thing happened, he was like, he said something along the lines of you can't just kill random people in the street. And it's like, yeah, but what do you expect people to do at this point, man? Like seriously, what do they expect people to do? What do they expect people who are $50,000 in medical debt because they got an injury at their job that doesn't pay them any money, right? What do you expect that person to do? Do you expect them to just eat shit for their entire lives? Because that's kind of what it sounds like these people are saying. That's kind of what it sounds like everyone's saying. It's like, oh, there's a lady who works for a company that buys up thousands and thousands of single family homes was killed. Can you believe it? And it's like, yeah, I can very easily believe it, and I can really understand where the guy was coming from. And people are beginning, oh, are you condoning murder? Yeah, yes. It's it's just very funny to me that people are just shocked by this. They're like, violence is never the answer. I don't know where you've lived. I don't know if you've looked at the history of America ever. Violence is always the answer, man. It's just crazy to me. It's crazy to me that people they just don't want to accept the reality of violence as a tool. And it's just very weird to me that they live in America and they can't accept that fact. But let's read about this poor innocent woman who never wronged anyone ever. People have been killed for way less, by the way. People people will be like, "Oh, well she never actually killed anyone." And it's like, dude, people fucking shoot each other in the street over fucking like $20 that someone else owes someone. Like, seriously. People kill people for no reason. It's very it's very like annoying to me. It's just like literally hundreds of people, hundreds of like poor people, poor black people specifically, are killed every single year by each other, to be fair. They're being killed by each other, but it's still like none of those guys get any attention. The 14-year-old black kid who was never given a chance at life, who got gunned down in the street because he was, I don't know, selling fucking weed or I mean, weed probably. Weed people probably have been killed for weed in America within the past year, or selling whatever for selling drugs on the side of the street in the wrong part of town. The kid who was gunned down never had a chance at life. He doesn't get fucking weeks and weeks and weeks of fucking national attention. Everyone just goes, he died. He was a poor person who died. It's just, I don't, they're almost forcing this reaction out of people. They're almost forcing people into not giving any of these people any sympathy because they're like they give they think everyone's stupid. That's what it is. They think everyone's the dumbest fucking person on earth. And to be fair, a lot of them are. A lot of people are looking at this and being like, this is needless violence. And it's like, no, it's not, dude. No, no, it's not. But let's read about Wesley. So Wesley LaPanter, sorry, a senior executive at Blackstone who was among those killed in the shooting on Monday at an office tower in New York City, was a mentor to women in her workplace in her synagogue. Oy vey. We're not talking about Israel, dude. We're not talking about Israel. I just I just think it's funny. Right? I just think it's a little bit funny. I don't know. There's something there. I don't know. It's just a little bit funny. So, according to her friends who praised her skills in balancing work, community, and family. Oh, okay. So Miss LaPlanter, one of her company's top-ranking women, possessed a stellar resume. She was she was chief executive of Blackstone Real Estate Income Trust and had spent more than a decade at Goldman Sachs before joining Blackstone in 2014. She graduated summa cum laude from Yale University. Dude, this is just you're making me hate this person more and more. Literally, this whole article is about trying to gain sympathy for this woman. It's trying to like make people feel bad for her. But everything they're saying is like, no, she's a piece of shit. Right? She worked at Goldman Sachs, a company that almost was one of the major players in causing the 2008 financial crisis, a company whose entire existence has been mired in corruption and bailouts from the government, right? That's all I think of when I think of Goldman Sachs. And then Blackstone. It's like, oh, she worked at Goldman Sachs and Blackstone. Oh, the two most evil companies in America, right? It's like Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, like the military companies. Those are all number one. But then like right after that, it's like Blackstone and like these giant investment banks. Dude, it's crazy to me. It's crazy that you're trying to like garner sympathy for her, and you're like, she worked at the two most evil non-military companies in the United States. Like, you're not making me feel any worse for her. It's like, oh, this poor lady only made $20 million a year by foreclosing on poor people's houses. Yeah, I don't doesn't make me feel any worse for her, dude. And to be fair, Wesley LePanther. Let's pull up a picture of Wesley LePanther, dude. And when I hear LePanther, I'm gonna be honest here. I don't really think of synagogue. She, and also the look she's got to her is a bit waspy, but she's. I was gonna say she's a bit of a piece. She's fine looking. Not, she's a fine looking lady. You know, she's not a full piece, but she's decent looking. But she was shot in the head. Wonder why? What? Well, guys, why would anyone want to do this to poor Wesley? All Wesley did was buy 400,000 homes in America and then sell them for triple the price to people who won't be able to afford them. And then she foreclosed on the house and made nothing but a profit off a poor family somewhere, guys. Why don't you feel bad for why don't you feel bad for Wesley LePanther? Why don't you feel bad for Wesley LePanther who's works for one of the companies that's causing a massive housing crisis in this company or in this country that's affecting everything else? Why don't you feel bad for her? It's just it's it's just weird. It's just you're trying to garner sympathy by talking about works how she was very good at working for a company that just fucks over people to make money, to make billions of dollars. Just all right. She was an anomaly on Wall Street. Friends and colleagues said, known for her compassion, mentorship, and dedication to her family while being committed to Blackstone, traveling often and working hard. Guys, stop with talking about how hard she worked for Blackstone, dude. I'm giving you advice. I feel bad for you at this point. I seriously feel bad for what is this? The New York Times. I feel awful for them. It's whoever is writing this must be the most insane sociopath. This person has never interacted with anyone ever. Like, stop talking about how good she was at stealing houses from people. Stop doing that. That doesn't make anyone feel bad for her. I don't know. Talk about how she had kids or something. They literally. I read the first 3 paragraphs of the article, and I don't even know if these are paragraphs. They're all like one sentence long, but they're like 90 fucking words, so I'll call it a paragraph. But literally, the first three are all about how good she was at stealing money from people. And people will be like, oh, BlackRock and Goldman Sachs, they don't steal money from people. They're just smart investors or whatever. No, they steal money from people. They steal money just from everyone. That's how they operate. How else do you think they fucking make money? They just steal from people constantly. They take advantage of people. They steal from them. They cause economic crisis that they know will benefit them. Crises? What's the multiple of crisis? Crises? I don't fucking know. But they do that in order to make money. They don't face any repercussions from the government. Literally, when these companies fail, the government just gives them hundreds of billions of dollars. It's just like I don't I don't know, dude. If she worked for fucking the Salvation Army or whatever, I'd maybe lean a little bit towards being like, God, I feel bad for you. Just or if, even if she volunteered at Salvation, if she volunteered 1 hour a week at a fucking soup kitchen, I'd feel a little bit bad for her. But it's just like, yeah, she was so good at stealing money from people. Please feel bad for her. Hey, this lady, you know how no one can afford a house and it's this company's fault? Yeah, this lady who like drives the company, you should feel bad for her. It's all right. Miss LePanter, 43, was killed after she had taken cover behind a marble pillar in the lobby of a Park Avenue building where where she worked. Jesus Christ, man. These You know how most people who die in mass shootings are like children who are hiding behind desks that are from the 1990s? Yeah, this lady was hiding behind a marble pillar in a building that cost hundreds of millions of dollars in one of the most expensive neighborhoods in the world. Yeah. She was hiding behind a piece of fucking imported marble from Italy. They're like rubbing it in our faces at this point. They're literally fucking taking their shoe that they stepped in dog shit with and they're pressing it into your fucking face and leaving a shoe print there. That is seriously what they're doing. She was hiding behind a marble pillar. It's crazy. So on its social media accounts, Blackstone promoted Miss LePanter as a role model for women, a position she embraced in the male-dominated industry. Her friends said she spoke on panels that focused on women in the industry offering guidance. Oh, she offered guidance to women so that they can just steal from people. It's just like it's like do you guys know who Griselda Blanca is? Griselda Blanca, if you don't know, she was like this ruthless drug lord. This ruthless fucking drug lord. She was famous for like inventing the motorcycle drive-by. She would literally have like two people on a dirt bike pull up with an Uzi and like gun someone down in the middle of the fucking streets, dude. That's like what she was famous for, right? And Blackstone is a company that is famous for overpaying for single family homes so that they can artificially drive the price up and make a profit. That's what Blackstone is known for. That that's like it's just like big like Griselda Blanca promoted feminism in the fucking in the murder for hire business. It's just so I don't know if they're doing it on purpose. It kind of seems like it does. With the whole thing about her hiding behind a marble pillar and the other thing about her providing guidance to women in this industry, it's like it feels like you're doing it on purpose. How about she guides women through figuring out how to fucking, I don't know, leave abusive relationships or something like that. No, she guided women that were already going to be incredibly rich and successful to a place where they can be more rich and successful and more greedy and steal more from people. Like that's what they're saying. Okay. Um the goal is for you to embrace change. Okay, I'm done with this shit, dude. I really went into this being like I want to feel bad for this lady. This lady 43-year-old lady around my mom's age works for a corporation just like my mom does and she was murdered in cold blood. That's the thing. People, you can defend this action. I will defend what this man did. But at the end of the day, she was murdered in cold blood. It is what it is, dude. I'm not saying that's the end of the fucking world. I'm not even saying it's a bad thing, but that's what it is. She was murdered because she did shitty, horrible things, and she was unarmed and she was killed. I don't know. I have no fucking idea. It's just I'm done with these fucking people. I can't handle it anymore. It's like you seriously think that that's gonna make me feel bad for her? You seriously think you telling me how she was hiding behind a marble pillar in a probably $1 billion building on one of the most expensive streets in New York City? You think telling me that's gonna make me feel bad for her? Just be like, yeah, she was hiding behind her gold toilet that she doesn't ever use. Just say that at that point, man. It's like it's crazy. Most people can't afford a fucking house, dude. The marble pillar that woman was hiding behind probably cost more than my fucking house, dude. Seriously, it probably cost that fucking much money for it to be imported and carved and installed, all that shit, dude. It probably cost more than my fucking house. And she was hiding behind it. And it's not even an object that has a utility. I guarantee you that was not a load-bearing marble pillar, a load-bearing polished white marble. It wasn't that, dude. It's just crazy, man. It's insane. Th- they think that like anything they said in that article is going to garner any sympathy. It feels like they're mocking them. Like this is why people become conspiracy theorists, right? It literally feels like they're mocking you when they were writing that. They're like, "Oh, you'll never be able to afford a house or fucking rent. You'll never be able to make any money. You probably won't even be able to find a job in the field that you got a college degree in." And this lady was hiding behind a marble pillar that will cost more than the house that you're never going to own because the company that she works for won't let you own a house. It's just like, guys. All right. That's all I've got for this episode, guys. I don't fucking know. I don't know, man. I'm probably going to go fishing again tomorrow. I might do a fish tier list, maybe. I don't know. Just an idea that came to me real quick. I guess I'm just a genius, just a artistic genius like that. But that's all I've got for this episode, guys. I hope you have a good day, a good week, a good year, a good life. And I'll probably see you guys tomorrow. I'll probably do that fish tier list tomorrow. It's gonna be probably a multifaceted ranking. It's not just gonna be catching it, but I'll probably do it tomorrow. But I'll see you guys then. All right. Peace.